Some things you never forget, some things follow you, and some things make you question everything you thought you knew about life and death. You've landed on planet 412. I'll be your captain of sorts as we navigate this strange, cryptid-filled world. Join me on the quest for truth, through the strange, mysterious, and supernatural. This is Planet 412. Welcome to Planet 412. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to be reading a story from the first person point of view. It was sent to us by a person you guys are probably familiar with. Someone who was on the show a couple months ago. Her name is Joyce or Joe Stone. She shared her incredible Dogman experience. It was something that put me in a bad place when she told us about it. She also is an ex-nurse, someone who are no strangers to the supernatural. They are privy to very strange occurrences. On Discovery Plus, if you're familiar with the channel, there's a show that highlight doctors and nurses and the strange things that they see over their careers. This is just one of the many things that happened. I hope I do her justice. Hello, my name is Joyce. When I was 19 years old, I worked as a nurse in a small town hospital in southeast Kansas. Being a new nurse, I had to pay my dues by working the night shift. I was paired with another new nurse, Teresa, and we were always assigned together. We didn't mind. It gave us more variety and a hands-on experience. One night during report, we were told about a patient named Goldie. She was a 68-year-old woman admitted for failure to thrive. She was severely malnourished, underweight, and had no family or close friends. She had never married and had no children. Goldie always wore a permanent scowl and complained about everything. I felt sorry for her and made the mistake of smiling, speaking kindly and gently, holding her hand. She immediately snapped at me. "Don't talk to me like I'm a helpless child." I quickly learned to keep our communication to a minimum, strictly matter-of-fact statements about her care. She would only respond with a curt yes or no. That became our rhythm. On the third night, when Teresa and I walked into Goldie's room, we were shocked to find her crying. We had never seen her express any emotion other than anger. But before we could comfort her, something terrifying happened. A deep male voice came from her. Harold. Goldie was still there, but now another presence had taken over. Harold had his own facial expressions, his own body language, and his own voice. He spoke to Goldie, telling her to calm down. Then they both started talking about us, criticizing our work and making hateful remarks. 3 nights later, Maggie appeared, same as before, her own voice, her own expressions, her own personality. Then another person showed up, and another. Every 3 nights, a new personality emerged until there were 5 of them inside Goldie, each with distinct traits and voices. She became the most difficult patient to care for. During meals, the kitchen had to send several different plates because none of them liked the same food, obviously, and they would argue over what to eat. Then, after 6 long days of dealing with all of them together, Harold died. Goldie cried, mourning him terribly. 3 nights later, Maggie passed away, and again the others grieved. One by one, they disappeared until finally only Goldie remained. Teresa and I wondered, would Harold return in 3 nights? Would a new personality emerge, or was this finally over? But when the third night arrived, we walked into our shift and were told that Goldie was refusing to eat or drink. She was severely depressed, mourning the last of her companions. We didn't know what to expect that night. We would never forget what happened next. At 3 a.m., during rounds, Teresa and I entered Goldie's room. She was sitting up in bed, her eyes wide with terror. She pointed a trembling finger toward the foot of the bed. "What are those things?" she whispered. Teresa and I exchanged glances. We assumed she was hallucinating due to dehydration. We raised her bed rail, something we had never been allowed to do before, but she didn't even notice. Her eyes remained fixed on the foot of her bed, her face contorted in fear. "They're crawling out of the fire," she whimpered. "My wall is on fire." We, of course, saw nothing. We tried to reassure her, but she didn't seem to hear us. Then suddenly she screamed, "They're trying to grab my feet." She scrambled to the head of her bed, pressing her back against the wall, pulling her knees to her chest. She looked directly at me, her voice desperate. "Pray for me now." I was so startled I couldn't even remember a prayer. She screamed again, "Start praying for protection now." As I began reciting the Lord's Prayer, she lunged at me. Both her hands shot up, wrapping around my neck, her fingers interlaced tightly, and she clung to me with all her strength. Now, I only weighed 110 pounds. I couldn't support her full weight around my neck. I fell forward, my ribs slamming into the raised bed rails. Pain shot through my body, and I cried out. "Teresa, get her off of me," I gasped, struggling to push myself up. Teresa grabbed Goldie's hands from behind, trying to pry them apart, but Goldie held on with an iron grip. It felt like an eternity, a terrifying tug of war. Then suddenly, Goldie let out a blood-curdling shriek. Her body convulsed, both legs shooting straight out, hovering a foot above the bed. "They've got my feet," she screamed. "Don't let them take me." Her body twisted violently. In an instant, she flipped onto her back, breaking her grip around my neck. She reached for me again, her nails raking across my skin, leaving deep scratches. Then, with unimaginable force, her body was yanked towards the foot of the bed by something invisible. It wasn't her. My lab coat collar tore as she tried to cling to me. Her lower back slammed into the metal footboard. "No," she wailed. "Don't let them take me
No! Don't
there."
let them take me
Her
there.
voice, it was fading, as if it was being pulled away. A suffocating stench filled the room, sulfur and burning. The air grew thick, choking us. Teresa and I coughed violently. Our eyes were watering from the acrid smell. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. Goldie was dead. Her body was eerily light as we pulled her back up to her pillow. There was no resistance. Her eyes were wide open, frozen in terror. Her mouth hung open mid scream. At that moment, both Teresa and I felt a strange pressure change in the room. Our ears popped. We stood there shaking, unable to speak. Teresa suddenly spun around and yanked open a window. Fresh air rushed in, no sulfur, no burning, just crisp, clean air. We turned to each other, and though no words were spoken, our eyes said it all. We had just witnessed someone being dragged to hell. Sometime later, I watched the movie Ghost starring Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. There was a scene where dark creatures appeared and dragged a terrible man to hell. I broke into a cold sweat. Was that what Goldie saw? How did they know to put that in the movie? I don't know what happened that night, but I do know this. It was real. Teresa and I had nightmares for a long time after that. This is a true story. Joe Stone. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And if there's any doctors and nurses out there, please, I would love to hear your stories of events that have happened through the years. Of course, you can write me on Planet 412's email, or you can get a hold of me on Facebook. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it greatly helps out the channel. I'll see you next time on Planet 412.
Hey, Planet 412. 2025 is going to be gigantic for the 412. All kinds of new formats and huge things are in store. What am I talking about? You'll find out. But one thing's going to happen for sure. This guy's going to be in a new documentary on ETS, Exposing the Strange, directed by David Wolf. Well, David Wolf was just on a live stream not too long ago on Planet 412. You guys probably saw it. If you haven't, check it out. And you can see that ad right now on Planet 412's newest episode. Check it out.
What do you think Dogman is? Do you think it's supernatural or flesh and blood?
You know, that's a slippery slope for some people. So with my experience, I 100% believe that it was supernatural.
We just heard a rock clack right over here.